So we're going to take the following quicksort function as a representative example. It doesn't matter to us what the program does. What we are interested in knowing is what we can do with the program. So we're going to focus on the code in the yellow box, and this code is the heart of the quicksort function, and we will represent this code using what is called a 3-address code or an intermediate code of the program. This is the intermediate code used by compilers. So the idea is to represent programs in a simpler piece of code. The interesting thing is that we have now simpler expressions. If we focus on this particular part of sequence of assignments, we observe that they essentially represent these 3 assignments here. So if I is equal to m minus 1 is I is equal to m minus 1 here, j is equal to n is j is equal to n here, v is equal to an becomes t1 is equal to 4 star n, and t6 is equal to a of t1, and v is equal to t6. The idea is that this is an integer array and every element of the array occupies 4 bytes. So in order to access the nth location, we need to multiply n by 4 and access that location. So this is how all bigger expressions are represented into a sequence of collection of smaller expressions that are connected through the temporaries. So we have a 3-address code in which we use temporary variables to break down expressions into smaller expressions. You can see several expressions, several statements colored. The idea is that every expression is evaluated into the same temporary everywhere, which means that 4 star I, if it is evaluated in T2, then every instance of 4 star I will be evaluated in T2. If 4 star j is evaluated in T4, then every instance of 4 star j is evaluated in T4. This is a very simple piece of code. It has simple control flow. For example, we have this conditional control transfer, and then we have another instance of conditional control transfer, and then we have unconditional control transfer. This makes it very hard to understand the control flow, and therefore we divide this sequence of statements into basic blocks, which are maximal sequences of linear control flow. The idea is within a basic block, the statements are executed strictly sequentially. The entry into the basic block is only at the first statement, and the exit out of the basic block is only at the last statement. So this is how the basic blocks appear for this particular IR. At this stage, we are not interested in asking the question, how have we obtained this basic block? That's a matter of detail which we can worry about later. But once we have these basic blocks, then we can identify control transfers within basic blocks. For example, we have this statement, if I greater than equal to j go to 25, it means that from this basic block there is a control transfer to this particular basic block whose statement number is 25. With this piece of information, now we construct what is called a control flow graph or a program flow graph, and in this every node represents a basic block that involves strictly sequential flow of control, and the edges between the nodes represent control transfer between the basic blocks. Now we want to see how we can optimize this program. So the first optimization that we want to look at is what is called local common subexpression elimination. It's called local because it restricts its attention to a particular basic block. The advantage is that within the basic block we know that the control flow is strictly sequential, so we do not have to ask a question about whether there is another path modifying a particular statement. For example, here we have T2 equal to 4 star I, and then we have another instance of T2 is equal to 4 star I, and we know that between these two instances the value of I is not changing. Similarly, we have an instance of 4 star N and another instance of 4 star N, and we know the value of N is not changing. What it means is that the value computed by the second occurrence of the expression 4 star I would be same as the value computed by the first occurrence of 4 star I. Similar thing happens in this particular basic block. There is a 4 star I here and there is a 4 star I here. This 4 star I is guaranteed to compute the same value as this 4 star I. Similarly, this 4 star j is guaranteed to compute the same value as this 4 star j, and therefore we can optimize the repeated computations of expressions away by simply deleting them. So we get this particular optimization. So we have now some empty slots. There's one blue empty slot, there's one yellow empty slot here, there's a blue and green empty slot here in this basic block. So which means that we have optimized certain piece of code. After that, we ask a question whether we can redo the same thing across basic blocks instead of restricting ourselves to a particular basic block. Now we have this instance of 4 star I and we are asking whether it computes the same value as this instance of 4 star I. For this, we have to guarantee that every path from this computation of 4 star I to this computation of 4 star I does not modify the value of I. Meaning any path, consider any path from this instance to this instance, and we need to guarantee that no such path modifies the value of I. It turns out that we have a path like this that goes via B2, B3, B4 and then to B5 that does not modify the value of I. However, there is a path that goes from this B2 and then to itself, and there the value of I is modified. What that means is now we are talking about multiple occurrences of this statement and multiple occurrences of this statement because both of them are in the loop. When that happens, we talk about, so we have, this is what illustrates a program trace. So we have this 4 star I, then I is equal to I plus 1, then another 4 star I, then I is equal to I plus 1, then another 4 star I, then I is equal to I plus 1 and another occurrence of 4 star I, and assume that after that the loop is not executed. So we go to basic block 3, basic block 4 and basic block 5 and again compute 4 star I. The important point to note is that when we are asking whether we can reuse the previously computed value of 4 star I here in this occurrence of the statement in B5, it must necessarily refer to the last occurrence of 4 star I in basic block B2. The previous occurrences of 4 star I are meaningless. So therefore, we say that what is relevant is the last occurrence of 4 star I in B2 and the first occurrence of 4 star I in B5. And then it's easy for us to see that this path from this to this does not involve any computation of 4 star I. Of course, we are looking at it here visually, but we need a systematic analysis that will discover it. But the idea is that we know that this 4 star I is redundant and therefore this 4 star I could go away. Similar remark applies to 4 star j and similar remark applies to 4 star n. So we have this optimized program. Note that we have not eliminated T6 is equal to A of T1 and T6 is equal to A of T1 in spite of the fact that there is no assignment to T1 on any path from here to here. But that's because A is an array, and when we say A of T1, we cannot guarantee that the same location is not modified using some other index. So we have A of T2 here, and at compile time we cannot say that T1 is not equal to T2, and therefore this is not treated as common subexpression elimination. Which brings us to an important point. In most cases, it is easier to perform analysis of scalar variables than analysis of aggregates such as arrays. So that completes another optimization, and then we quickly look at other optimizations of copy propagation, strength reduction, elimination of induction variable, and dead code elimination. Here we have x is equal to T3. So which means that x is a copy of T3. When we use x, we can safely replace this x by T3 because there is no assignment to T3 in between. Similarly, we have x is a copy of T3 here, and this x can be replaced by T3. So we perform this optimization, and this allows us to eliminate the assignment to x because there is no use of x. And so which means that copy propagation often leads to dead code elimination. X is equal to T3 assignment here is a dead code. Similarly here x is equal to T3 is dead code because there is no use of x, and hence we eliminate it. Then we look at another interesting optimization of strength reduction and induction variable elimination. The idea here is that we would like to replace high strength computations within a loop by low strength computations. The thing to observe here is we have 4 star I. Every time I increments by 1, 4 star I increments by 4. Similarly here, every time j decrements by 1, 4 star j decrements by 4. What that means is that 4 star I can be replaced by T2 is equal to T2 plus 4. Similarly, this assignment T4 equal to 4 star j can be replaced by T4 equal to T4 minus 4, provided we insert an initial assignment to T2 and T4. When we do this, we observe that the only use of I and j in the loop is in testing this condition. Now we can test this condition on T2 and T4 as well, and therefore we end up optimizing this program by replacing a high strength computation by a low strength computation and by eliminating the induction variables I and j in this loop. So this is our final optimized program. There are many such optimizations can be done, but we have looked at the most common optimizations. So the observations are, the optimizations are transformations based on some information. Systematic analyses are required for deriving the information. We have looked at data flow optimizations. Many control flow optimizations can also be performed. So here is a broad list of categories of optimizing transformations. We are essentially going to focus on the first category where we perform data flow analysis, and this involves machine independent optimizations.